Okay, just a quick note before we get started here. If you can't tell, I'm fighting a little bit of a cough. I got like a little tickle in the back of my throat. It's just not going away. So if there's a lot of edits, that's what's going on. Anyway, this is, of course, the recap and review for the remake of the Stephen King novel It. It was originally done as a TV miniseries because it's a really big book, and that TV miniseries was spread over 2 nights. I remember it from a kid. I mean, I never saw it when I was a kid. I think I saw it at one point when I was more like 15 or 16. But I remember the commercials for it when it came out, and I was actually quite scared of them, even though I was about 10 years old. Yeah, didn't really grow up with a lot of Stephen King. My parents weren't exactly readers of it. I mean, I remember like trailers for things. I remember seeing the Here's Johnny clip from The Shining when I was pretty young, because there was like a special showing of it on USA. But yeah, like I said, didn't really grow up with a lot of Stephen King until I was a bit older as a child. I saw a lot of the more dramatic ones, Stand By Me, Shawshank Redemption, some Misery on TV again. That's probably a bit more in the horror realm. We kind of started to migrate over a little bit with some of the horror, but we were not big Stephen King aficionados until much later, I think. And again, we got stuck with a lot of the mid-'90s TV miniseries, which ranged from okay to horrible. Things like It, the aforementioned It, the Tommy Knockers, which was bad, Langoliers, which was bad, The Shining, which was pretty bad too. Never saw The Stand. I never saw. Oh, what was the other one he did? I think it was the one at the hospital, Rose Red, I think it was, something like that. Did kind of start to come around a little bit on some of the Stephen King stuff. Saw a lot of the big ones. Again, saw The Shining eventually because my brother and I were big Kubrick fans. We saw Carrie on not even HBO. It was on TBS. Never saw Pet Sematary. Never saw anything like that. Anyway, I know I'm getting off topic, but I saw Stephen King's It, the new version. They did tweak up a lot of things, and this is going to be pretty short in terms of recap-wise, because if not, I'm just going to be, basically reciting the whole movie, and I don't really want to do that. Anyway, playing Pennywise, we have Bill Skarsgård, part of the Skarsgård acting tree, as father's Stellan Skarsgård, who you might know as he's Jesper. I'm trying to think what his character was in Thor, or he's Bootstrap from Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Will Turner's father, Bootstrap. He's one of those guys where it's like you see him in one thing and then you see him in like 14 other things. He's one of those character actor types. His brother is Eric Northman from True Blood. Alexander Skarsgård. I'm trying to think what else. I know he was in a couple other things. He was on that HBO miniseries with Nicole Kidman that was out last year. Again, I know I'm really filling this up with a lot of useless stuff. It's just, again, I'm trying to not cover the whole thing all at once. But there are some differences from the book. For example, the book, they're trying to keep things up, maybe be a bit more contemporary in some sense. In this case, the film begins in the past, but instead of the past that's in the book, which is like 1958, they upped it to 1988. The first death, which is the death of the little brother who's chasing the boat, and it falls down the sewers where he meets Pennywise the clown. It's actually a bit more graphic. Instead of just pulling him down under, Pennywise leaps up, bites off the kid's arm, and then pulls the kid into the gutter. It's at that point the film jumps ahead 6 months or so to 1989 as school is getting out. Georgie's brother Bill is trying to locate him, trying to find the body at least. All these other kids have gone missing. In fact, one has gone missing just before the last day of school. He has several. He has two kind of main friends at the start, and that's let's see, I believe it's Stanley, Mike, and Richie. And yeah, they didn't do a very good job of introducing the characters in this, I'll tell you that right now. It's like Richie, I don't think got formally named until like 20 minutes into the film. I mean, the only reason I know he stands out is because he's the kid from Stranger Things. I almost said Needful Things. That's not a Netflix series, it's a Stephen King book. Stranger Things, anyway. Anyway, and then they get joined by Beverly, Ben, and Mike. No, sorry. Just a sec here. Sorry. The initial group is Bill, Richie, and Eddie, and Stanley. And then they get joined by Beverly, Ben, and Mike as the film progresses. Ben is a new kid in school. Beverly is the girl who, she becomes kind of the object of just about everyone's affection because she's the one girl who's talking to all of them, but she also has a reputation throughout the school that is unfounded. Ben is the new kid, and he has kind of a running joke throughout this because it's the late 80s. They have him listening to New Kids on the Block. And it's kind of like he doesn't want anyone to know he's actually listening to New Kids on the Block. But, and there's one point, they go back to his room for something, and he's there in the room, and Beverly kind of closes the door behind her, and there's this big New Kids on the Block poster, and he looks, and it starts playing the intro to this song, Hangin' Tough. It starts going to, and he's like, and she opens the door back up. There are some things in the book that translate over. Beverly is sexually abused by her father. But he's also very controlling. He doesn't want her talking to boys. Her mother's not in the picture. Bill is very estranged from his parents since Georgie's disappearance. They really don't want anything to do with him. The group is tortured by, I think it's 4 bullies. 2 of them are not named. 2 of them are. It's Henry Rollins. No, not Henry Rollins. One's Henry, and the other one's Patrick. And Patrick gets killed by Pennywise very early on. Kind of throughout everything, they start piecing together stuff that's happening. Ben was doing kind of a history report on the history of Derry, and it seems like there's all these big tragedies that seem to happen every 27 years. There was an explosion at a factory of some kind. I think it was an egg factory, maybe wrong. It was during an Easter celebration, and a bunch of kids died. There was a fire at a prominent hangout where a bunch of kids died. There's another thing happened where a bunch of kids died, and they trace it back to like this old abandoned house. There's actually this kind of cool scene where they're first inspecting it, and I'm trying to think. Eddie, who's kind of this hypochondriac kid because his mother keeps telling him all these bad things. It turns out he's not really that sick, but she's convinced him that he is. And he gets kind of separated from the group as they're inspecting this house, and he kind of falls through this hole and he breaks his arm. And like as Richie and Bill are separated from them, they find these 3 doors, and one says, "Not very scary, kind of scary, and really horrifying." And they run to the one that says, "Not very scary." They open up, and it's like, and they find one of the missing kids who has been completely cut in half, and she's hung down from a hole, and she's got like her intestines are falling out. Like, ah! They close the door, and kind of a funny moment there. One of the funny things actually happened kind of outside this. In the theater, there was a guy, a kind of old guy, sitting in front of me, and he's kind of harumphing throughout parts of the film. And then there's this point where Beverly's father tries to rape her. She fights off. She knocks him out with I think it's the top part of the toilet tank. And it's like she's moved on, and then suddenly Pennywise leaps out and grabs Beverly, and this guy goes, "Fuck!" out loud, and everyone in the theater started laughing. Anyway, there's a lot of like kind of hidden scares in there too. There's kind of like this little nursery rhyme that's going on. There's like this kids TV show where suddenly like the host, who's like this kind of cheery, I don't say Sherry Lewis type person, he's like, kids should all run down the sewers. Just jump in the stream and let the water carry you to the end. Going into the sewers is fun. You should go in the sewers. Anyway, eventually, like I said, Beverly gets kind of grabbed by Pennywise and kidnapped her. The rest of the group starts trying to find her, and basically they realize that if they stay together and if they're not actually afraid of Pennywise, they can kill him. And kind of through these machinations, he tries everything to do to scare him. He uses Georgie to kind of distract Bill, but Bill's become smart enough to realize it's not Georgie. And he basically kills Pennywise as Georgie, and they start fighting. And every time they get scared, he gets stronger. But every time they start fighting him back, he gets weaker and weaker. And he eventually kind of just falls into this deep hole and disappears. And they know that, like, they may have killed him for now, but he can always come back. And if in 27 years he comes back, at the end they swear an oath to come back should Pennywise return. It's not what they do in the book. I'm not going to say what they do in the book, but you can look it up online. But they just do like a blood oath. They cut their hand with a piece of glass, and then they all hold hands together. And then it says, It, Chapter 1. So yeah, obviously they're going to be doing another part later. Like I said, it was a really big book. So if you ever see the book, it's one of those really big ones. There was a reason why it was originally done as a TV miniseries. I would say this, overall, it's a pretty enjoyable film. There are jump scares, but I think they're evenly spaced out enough that they're not horrifically overdone. There's, like I said, it's spread out enough. The film is actually paced pretty quickly at first. Like I said, my main complaint was they don't do a good job enough of introducing the characters. But like once they get introduced and the group starts to form and starts to form and starts to form, it really kind of rolls along pretty well. Except towards the end, during the whole final confrontation with Pennywise, where they're trying to locate Beverly, it just keeps kind of going. That's where it really starts to drag a little bit more. It's kind of like, okay, just get to the dang point already. Just get to the point where they can finally fight him. Excuse me. Sorry, I had a really bad one there. Anyway, overall, I'm going to give the movie a B. I did like it, but not quite enough to give it an A. I think, again, some of the problems with the introduction of the characters, and then it dragged towards the end a little bit. But other than that, it's like I said, it was pretty enjoyable. Also, before we get more, I'll get a little bit more into this stuff. Most of the cast was pretty good. Like, again, if I have another complaint about the cast in general, I think they're a little too old for the characters they're supposed to be playing. Like, the characters are supposed to be, like, a couple of them. I think Ben is a little more age appropriate, but Beverly is a little too old. I think even Bill's a little too old. Like, you know, they're supposed to be, like, 12 to 14, and these ones are more like 15 or 16. But other than that, like I said, it was a pretty enjoyable film, giving it a B. Okay, anyway, it's trailer time, and, you know, after taking a month off, there's finally some new trailers to talk about here. The first one's kind of a weird one. It was Friend Request, which is strange, because I think this movie actually came out in, like, Canada and Europe. It's been out in a lot of places already. I think it even came out on demand. But yeah, it's the social media horror movie. Girl unfriends someone on Facebook, and that person kills themselves, and then their ghost winds up haunting her and killing all her friends to make them be friends forever. Yeah. There might be a reason why this thing has been out for so much. I've seen it being made fun of on a lot of the YouTube review shows. After that, we have Kingsman: The Golden Circle. Then we have the remake of Flatliners. I have to say that slowly because I remember when the original came out, and then there's an adult film parody of Flatliners called Fatliners. And so every time we would say, my brother and I would see Flatliners, we would inadvertently say Fatliners. It's kind of a weird Freudian slip. So I have to say Flatliners very slowly. After that we had The Sixth Friend. Oh, boy. What was that about again? Oh, that was... It was this weird thing. It was kind of like part The Descent, where this woman experiences some kind of traumatic event, and a few years go by and she reunites with some friends, and they wind up getting haunted by this thing from this traumatic event. Yeah, it just looked really kind of confusing. It looked like part slasher movie, like part The Descent without the creatures in the cave. It just, like I said, it looked really confusing. After that, we have American Made, the movie where Tom Cruise is an undercover drug runner for the CIA. There's been a lot of talk with that. It's funny because it's called American Made, and yet it's been out everywhere except America. And after that, we have Happy Death Day, which is a slasher movie crossed with Groundhog's Day. The movie with Bill Murray where he keeps waking up on Groundhog's Day over and over again. It's this woman, she goes on this all-night bender, she wakes up in someone's else's dorm room, she goes out, there's another party going on, some guy in a cherub mask kills her, she wakes up and she's back in this guy's dorm room again, she gets to relive the day and try to avoid being killed. It did look interesting, but I think it comes out the same time as a couple other movies I intend to review, so I'm probably not going to be able to see that. Okay, so next video up after this is going to be the random trade review on Daredevil Underboss. Sorry, boy, coming off of this off the cuff a little bit. Sorry. After that, it will be 2 weeks, and then the next movie review will be Lego Ninjago. Then after that will be WWE, the Raw brand pay-per-view that's coming up. I'm blanking on what it was called now. No Mercy, yeah. Which, yeah, No Mercy is a Raw brand now. See you all then. Hey guys, just a reminder, I am on Patreon now at patreon.com/SleepyTimeForCatProductions. There's a reward tier where you can request for me to review a movie. So if you want to force me to see something like the Emoji Movie, here's your chance.